How to wholesale the pre-foreclosure list step by step. Guys, if you are not wholesaling the pre-foreclosure list, you are absolutely missing out on amazing wholesaling real estate deals. Most gurus will charge you thousands of dollars to actually learn how to pull this information, but really, you can start pulling pre-foreclosure leads absolutely for free. It costs no money at all. So in this guide, I'm gonna show you exactly how you can find pre-foreclosures, understand the pre-foreclosure process so you can explain it to your motivated seller, and most importantly, get wholesaling real estate deals and assignment fees in your bank account with these amazing real estate wholesaling leads. Now, your first question getting started with pre-foreclosures is, what is a pre-foreclosure? A pre-foreclosure is basically the early stage in the foreclosure process when a homeowner is behind on their mortgage payments. Usually this is when the lender starts notifying and letting the seller know, the person that actually is paying the mortgage, that they're not paying. And a really simple way that I like to look at pre-foreclosures is it's just a list of people not paying their mortgage payments. And if they're not willing to pay their mortgage payments, eventually the bank's gonna take over the house and they're gonna lose the house, which is not a good thing at all. So the big pro here is a lot of these motivated sellers have to sell the house. Not that it would be nice for them to sell, but they actually physically have to sell the property or they're gonna lose it to the bank. That's why it's really important here that we get in front of these sellers. Now, there are 5 stages in a pre-foreclosure from start to finish of the person not paying to them actually losing the property. And what I wanna do is share these 5 stages with you right now so you can understand it. Because if you can understand it, then you can teach and show your seller what's gonna happen if they don't go with your cash offer. It's a little scary to the seller for them to know what's gonna go on, but it's really important that you're informed and you can inform your seller. The better information you have, the more knowledgeable you're gonna seem when talking to the seller, which is gonna help you beat your competition. There's no secret here. There's a lot of wholesalers trying to get this list, a lot of wholesalers talking to these type of sellers, but you're gonna be the rare wholesaler that actually understands the pre-foreclosure process so you can inform your seller and so you can actually go out here and get the wholesaling deal. The first step in the pre-foreclosure process is what we call step 1. This is missed payments. This is when the motivated seller misses their payment. They are not paying their mortgage. Usually about 1 to 2 payments, they get a letter from the bank saying, hey, you missed your payment. Go pay us or we're gonna have to start doing court actions. Most pre-foreclosure sellers just say, whatever, and they just ignore it. Not good, because this eventually leads to step 2, which is notification. This is when the bank actually goes out here and gives an official notice that if you do not pay up, we are going to actually start the foreclosure process. You are going to lose the home. Remember, the seller misses some payments. Maybe they get a notification on their phone, a little email, nothing crazy. But step 2 is like the official notification. They are letting the seller know that you have to pay up now. This is when things get real. Usually though, a lot of sellers, due to whatever circumstance they have, they don't care, it's an official letter, they just ignore it. And now we get into step 3. Step 3 is actually when us wholesalers can actually start going inside of the data and the clerk of the courts and the public records or any of the softwares that we get and actually get these type of leads. This is when the bank makes it public, hey, we're filing a court action to take the house back. You, Mr. Seller, have not been paying your payments. Now, it's not the official legal definition and legal way to actually do it, but that's pretty much the synopsis of what goes on. What the bank usually does is what they call a list pendants. So they record a list pendants on the property. Sometimes they record what they call a notice of default, a notice of judgment. I've heard it been called notice of list pendants before also on top of that. Whatever it is, they just file a public record and a court action that we are taking action and we are taking back the property right now, and they're starting what most people understand as the foreclosure process. So step 3 here is public records. Now, once it's on public record, we can pull software, we can go to the clerk of the court and actually get this information. The next couple minutes, I'm actually gonna show you how to pull this list, but that is stage 3. This is when we can actually start talking to sellers. What you need to understand is during this stage, we could still wholesale the property, we could still get the contract written up, we could still wholesale it, bring through a buyer, and the seller is saved from actually getting their house foreclosed on. You gotta understand there's a lot of cons to get your house foreclosed on. First of all, it's just embarrassing. Nobody wants public record or Sally Sue or our neighbors knowing that we're losing the house. That's not good at all. On top of that too, it's gonna go against your record, it's public records. Underwriting, if I get another mortgage, it's gonna be less likely I'm gonna get another mortgage or get that approved. It's gonna hurt my credit. And on top of that too, it's gonna be a little more difficult to actually go rent out property too. So there's a lot of big pros to going with a cash offer or getting the property sold or at least paying off the payments payments that you missed, so you don't have to deal with this too. Now, on top of that too, if the seller wants to pay off all their missed payments, they can usually still save the property. Now, every state's different, but just understand they can theoretically still save the property here. So they think there is a hope, and they still want to live in the house, but they don't want to pay anything at all, which is an oxymoron here. I get it. We just gotta let the sellers know that we're looking to buy some houses, and if they want to sell it and avoid the foreclosure process, that'll be a big benefit to them. Now, before I tell you what stage 4 is, what I want you to understand is stage 4 is usually not the end, but it's very hard for us to wholesale once we get into stage 4. So what you need to understand between stage 3 and stage 4, this little window, is what I have called the wholesaling window of opportunity. This is going to be the opportunity for us wholesalers to actually get a contract, get everything written up, and get everything right. This window is usually 2 to 3 months. Now you got to remember, from the start of stage 1 of not making their payments, that's usually month 0. So this is about 6 months right now of non-payment and not dealing with the house at all. Stage 3 to 4, usually 3-4 months. Heck, I've even seen it a year. A lot of counties are different, the way they operate, so you just got to be careful with this. But once we hit stage 4 here, it gets a lot more difficult to wholesale. And this stage is the auction date set. The court records go through, the judge sees the case, and they order that, yes, I see the proof they did not pay. They signed a mortgage saying if they didn't pay, they'd have to give up the property. And the judge says, yes, this property will be auctioned off to the highest bidder on this date. Remember, if the property does actually not get sold for the price that the bank wants or what's owed, the bank actually takes it over on what they call an REO, real estate owned, and it's technically a bank-owned property. Now, this isn't legal definitions and terms, FYI. If you want to do that, read your court's laws. Ask your title company how this all works, because every single state and county, heck, even does it differently. But usually the bank takes it over. But step 4 here is the auction date is set, usually a month to sometimes 3 or 4 months out in the future. And yes, we can still wholesale it, but it gets very, very difficult to wholesale it once it's stage 4. And you've probably guessed stage 5, the property gets auctioned off, sold to the highest bidder, or the bank just takes over the property. No matter what, the ownership's relinquished. A sheriff will kick somebody out of the house if they're still in there, and the person loses their house. If you kind of want a better visualization, I know I'm a big visual learner. Inside of my free wholesaling course, freewholesaling.com, we have graphics just like this showing the entire pre-foreclosure process. As you can see here, from like a left to right process, this is the pre-foreclosure process. On the left-hand side here, this is when the seller misses their payments. That's month 1 to 3. This is usually what they call pre-foreclosure. Then it gets into that pre-foreclosure process, usually about 120 days. And I know this is kind of an abbreviated version of the steps I've said, but the notice of default's filed, public records sent, the list pendants, and then between that is what we call, like I've said, the wholesaling window of opportunity. This is the time we have to market to these sellers, pull the lists, talk to them, get the contract locked up, bring the buyer through, and just wholesale this deal. We can also do short sales during this time, but if you want to learn how to do that, go to freewholesaling.com. That's usually when the seller owes way more than what the property is even worth. And then boom, we get into the auction date set. Not impossible to wholesale there, but just a lot more difficult. And then it gets foreclosed on, or it's an REO, and obviously we can't wholesale during that time. Now, one very important thing you need to understand here. Most sellers in pre-foreclosure, this hurts my heart to even say, they will not want to sell the house, or they'll call you up to finally want to sell, usually 3 to 7 days before the auction takes place. These sellers, they're procrastinators. They didn't get in the situation for being on time and usually on point on making their payments. Now, some people have situations, I get it, but for most of them, they think they're gonna get saved and they're gonna have this money, or my Uncle John's gonna do this or that, we're gonna sell the boat, whatever. They decide to finally sell and go with you after all of their options are exhausted. They treat you like you're in the friend zone, and once all their options are gone, they're like, okay, I guess I'll go with you. And unfortunately, 3 to 7 days, there's nothing you can do. I'm gonna get a lot of comments in this video probably saying like, oh my gosh, Zach, I have a pre-foreclosure seller, but the auction's in 2 days, what do I do? I'm like, yeah, every single person like that wants to sell to you now and save them. But they have to live with what they've done, and outside the wholesaling window of opportunity, it's a lot more difficult to wholesale that deal. So we want to deal with only people inside the wholesaling window of opportunity. You have to understand this. I've said this a million times. Marketing out to pre-foreclosure sellers is just like asking somebody out on a date. If they say no, do not push them, do not be weird, do not convince them that is weird and creepy. You ask somebody, hey, are you looking to sell your property? And they say, no. Are you gonna say, no, you're in a pre-foreclosure. You actually need to sell your house. You need to go with me. That sounds a little creepy, that sounds a little desperate, and the seller's not going to deal with you at all. Somebody says no to going out with you, you're not going to convince them that you're such a great guy, that's handsome, that you need to go out with me. That's just weird, and that's not how you actually do it the right way. Respect somebody's decision to be a procrastinator and actually lose their house. Do not push it. Do not get stressed out. You cannot save everyone. Only the people that want to get saved or helped in this situation. That being said, let's kind of break down exactly how you can start pulling this list. There's usually two methods. Method one is the free way. You can actually go to the Clerk of the Court website and actually pull this information. Go to the public records, go to the court records online or in person, and get a list of all the court records that have a notice of default, a lis pendens, or a notice of judgment, or what they call a notice of lis pendens. The court record should show that a lot of the defendants or the person that they're showing the record for is a regular John Smith, a Joe Schmo, whatever the name is, and the plaintiff or the person actually filing the action is going to be like Bank of America, Capital One, some loan servicing company. Usually it's going to be over $50,000, and that is going to be the pre-foreclosure. What I like to do here when I'm looking at the records, I want to make sure there's like a parcel ID or a house address attached to that. Usually that's how you 100% know. Usually if those records have like Bank of America and the judgment amount or what's owed is like $5,000. It's usually a small amount. That's usually just credit card debt. So we want to make sure what's owed is a lot more so we actually know it's a pre-foreclosure. Then from there we pull the information and boom, we got it. We can skip trace it and start marketing. Now the other way is through a paid method. This is technically can be free too if you want to use a free trial. This is PropStream, aka listrei.com, listrei.com. This is a free trial to PropStream. You can just click a button, click your market, pre-foreclosures, and it's done for you just like that. They use software to automate to pull this information. Pretty much you get the same info pulling the pre-foreclosures from PropStream as you do from public records, but sometimes PropStream doesn't have every single market, so public records is going to win out every single time. But it's not really a huge crazy difference. Now, how do we actually go and market to these sellers, right? Now, the first and foremost rule from marketing to these sellers is you do not cold call them. Let me repeat myself, do not cold call the pre-foreclosure list. It is a terrible method for doing it. Most of these people are getting calls from loan sharks and loan servicing companies and all these other type of companies. Do not be cold calling these sellers. It is not going to be your best use of time. What I recommend instead is either SMS text blasting with them. I prefer smszach.com for this. Grabbing a sticky note and actually reverse trying for dollars. If you want to learn how to reverse try for dollars, go to freewholesaling.com. You just put a sticky note and you write on the sticky note, hey, this is Zach. I had a quick question about your property. Please give me a call back. Put your Google Voice number in, boom, slap it. You'll get a lot of inbound leads doing that. You can also send some postcards or direct mail. And then lastly, you can either door knock. Unfortunately, I wish I could tell you there's these other crazy strategies and marketing channels for them, but usually those are the only marketing channels you can really do for a pre-foreclosure seller. The big con here is there's a lot of wholesalers trying to get this information. So this is going to be a numbers game. You just need to market. You need to let sellers know who you are and get the deal done. You have to let your sellers know. This is really important when talking to these pre-foreclosure sellers. Hey, me and my partner are looking to buy a couple houses in the area for cash. This seems like a house we might want to buy. Are you looking to sell it? Do not be the wholesaler that says, I see you're behind on your mortgage payments. I want to buy your house and help you out. That will not work. That will embarrass the seller and it's just going to turn them off. I see other people say, we're a home solutions specialist and we see you're having some issues. We can help you save your home or X, Y, and Z. And you have this like Trojan horse thing where you're actually trying to help them out, save their house, but you're actually just looking to get them out of it and buy it. I feel like that's lying and disingenuous. Just say you and your partner are looking to buy a couple houses for cash. Make it easy, make it simple. Do not overcomplicate it. And if the seller wants to sell, they'll talk to you. You go through the regular MCTP that we teach at freewholesaling.com, meet up the house, get the property under contract, lock it up, find a wholesaler, assignment of contract, cash, boom, done for you. And you might be like, oh my gosh, how do I know what's owed and all these other things? Don't really stress out over that. At freewholesaling.com, we show you exactly how to do it, but really the title company does 99% of the legwork, making sure the bank pays everything off, no auction's gonna be set. A lot of title companies deal with pre-foreclosure, so it's really not a big deal for them, and that's why they get paid. So really don't feel the big stress of it. Just focus on making the seller feel good and letting them understand the process and how you're gonna help them out. Guys, if you got any value from this video, make sure you smash that like button and subscribe and get to work wholesaling the pre-foreclosure list. Remember, I have a free wholesaling course, freewholesaling.com if you want to go there, and I'll see you guys soon. This is Zach Ginn signing out. Have a blessed one.